For early access plus exclusive content, facilitated discussions, live one-on-one Q&As, and more, become a patron at patreon.com/BrucePointset. Welcome back to the Blacktastic Adventure. I'm your host, Bruce Pointset. And on today's episode, I speak with Bashira Muhammad. Bashira Muhammad is an environmental scientist, fungi farmer, and sustainability leader. In 2017, she established the agricultural company Out Mycology with the goal of creating a sustainable business that contributes to achieving a sustainable society. To zoom out is to see the big picture of sustainability, including social, environmental, economic, and institutional tactics. So I first got put on to Bashira by Intezar Abioto, actually. I just periodically I like to ask around, who do you think I should be interviewing for the Blacktastic Adventure? And, one of the first names she said is, you got to check out this fungi farmer, this mushroom farmer, I should say, in Southern Oregon. So, I looked up Zoom Out Mycology, found Bashira, and it just so happened that I was covering the Ben Johnson Mountain renaming ceremonies back in June. So I reached out and was like, hey, I'm going to be in town. Would it be possible to come by and see the farm? And sure enough, she let me come by, tour the farm, see the goats that may or may not have distracted me a little bit. But also, we talked a little bit about her story, that she's from New Jersey, similar to my mother in terms of coming to Oregon. And yeah, I'm glad we were finally able to sit down to do this interview. And again, Bashir's got a great story. She's a really big proponent of sustainability, and she's got great energy. So I think you're really going to enjoy it. Check it out. Awesome. So Bashira, thank you so much for coming on the Blacktastic Adventure today. How are you doing?
I'm doing amazing, feeling good, and thank you for having me.
Yeah. I know it's been it's like wildfire season down there. How are things on the farm, through that?
Well, the smoke is definitely a challenge. For one, we can't work outside when it's smoky, or I don't want people to work outside when it's smoky. And I think it might also impact the mushrooms. It really changes the temperature. It changes the amount of oxygen available. So, but today it's looking a little blue, a little bit. So,
yeah, that's good. I know just in following some of the other stuff, it feels like people never know, what one day is going to bring to the next, whether, you're, like you said, whether you're able to operate or not. So sounds like a lot. But you came to Oregon how many years ago again?
Back in 2014 to 2015 school year, I came to Oregon for the first time from New Jersey. That was my first time on the West Coast, and it was definitely a different experience.
And you said that one of the reasons that brought you to Oregon was just like its reputation for sustainability. Can you just talk about that a little bit more and kind of like where your passion for sustainability came from?
Definitely. So I've always been interested in science, and I kind of learned about sustainability around, I want to say like second or third grade. I had a teacher talk about climate change, and I actually, being a little young and naive, thought it had to do with like tobacco pollution, polluting the air and everything. So I would go out in a town called Plainfield, New Jersey on my block and like go out there like with signs with the neighborhood kids. And so I think like I've always been passionate about sustainability. In high school, I took AP Environmental Science, which is like an advanced environmental science class, and we really got into the science of sustainability. Along the lines, I learned that Oregon was one of the most sustainable parts of the country, and I just had to know what was so different from New Jersey and, what kinds of things were going on. So I applied for the National Student Exchange Program in college. So that was a class I took my senior year. And in college, I applied for this program called the National Student Exchange. And that allowed me to attend SOU, Southern Oregon University, for 1 year. And it wasn't like that's it. Now I knew what sustainability was. It was the beginning of like a whole nother like way of thinking, living, and a door. Like it was like the beginning of a new path of sustainability for myself. So for one, I learned that sustainability is not a one size fits all. It actually drastically differs based on some basics, like what natural resources are around you or what's the weather like. So like I never experienced a forest fire until I lived in Oregon. So
you said you came to, went through this program that allowed you to go to, SOU for 1 year. And I guess what made you, because now you're entering your senior year at SOU, and what made you want to stay?
What made me want to stay? Well, it was a really long journey between like that sophomore year and my senior year. I actually went back as a returning student. And what made me want to stay is definitely the ability to have real relationships with my professors. Like it's a really small school. I think there's less than 5,000 students in this whole school. So and that's just the whole school. My program is probably less than 30. So I really get to know my professors, their expertise, their skills, and can practice them myself.
Mm-hmm. And can you just talk a little bit more about, you said grew up in New Jersey, you've also spent time in the Midwest, but can you just talk about like the difference between, what part of New Jersey, just out of curiosity?
Yeah, I'm from Maplewood, New Jersey. It's in Essex County. It's in northern New Jersey, about like 10, 15 miles from New York City. But that doesn't mean it's a quick trip. It can be, depends on traffic, I guess, or your mode of transportation. So the biggest difference for me as like a young environmental scientist is the first thing is the weather. Where I grew up, it rains regularly. It doesn't rain for half the year here in Southern Oregon, maybe where you are too. So
it's funny you say that, because usually when people come to Oregon, they're like, oh my God, it rains so much. And like, yeah, up here in like Portland metro area, definitely most like feels like 3/4 of the year is rain. But yeah, it's an interesting interesting contrast in that sense.
Definitely. I mean, there's also cultural differences. I would describe New Jersey as like the melting pot that a lot of that, the United States can be. It's where I grew up was very diverse. I got to go to my friends' houses and meet their families who might speak a different language or have a totally different culture, different religion, different way of life. And I think I'm very thankful for that experience.
One of the other things, we talked about previously about Southern Oregon, I know that kind of like really enjoyed about is just that like it's an agricultural community. Can you just talk a little bit more for those who are not outside the area, what that kind of looks like?
Yeah. So for one, I would say something that people might not realize if they're from another state is that there's a lot of cannabis here. So that's a big crop, but here in Southern Oregon specifically, I see lots of pears, grapes, cannabis. Most of my friends are actually farmers, so they're not really, I don't really have friends that are big commercial farmers. So they have like very diverse operations, as I would call it. Like one of my friends has 100 fruit trees, pears, apples, plums, pawpaws, so many different things. They're all delicious. And another one of my friends, Erica, who I described in my little notes, is she is a meat bird raiser. So she's amazing. She's a Black woman farmer who inspires me, and just a really great friend to me. So
Yeah, to that point, can you just talk a little bit more about Erica and kind of like as far as specifically Black peers in the farming field, but then also just yeah, just like kind of like what the farming community is like you said your circle's kind of specifically, different farmers. So for those, outside of the industry, yeah, can you just talk about what that community is like?
I think it's awesome. So um, I mean, there aren't many, I'll have to say, there aren't many Black women farmers. I think that trend is changing based on like people who reach out to me. I mean, I live here in Southern Oregon. It's not a very diverse place, so I don't get a ton of people of color interested. But I think for where we are, maybe the trend is changing. Um, um, my community specifically, I think it's supportive. Um, I've had I've had people help me in all kinds of ways, and I think that's a important part of farming, to go out and, if you are a farmer and you have farming friends, there's always days where people need help. That day you came over, our shelving collapsed, like, stuff like just randomly happens sometimes, and it's good to have a strong network of people who are willing to, like support you. And my friend Erica, for example, when we were evacuating, she housed us. So it's just the little things, I think.
Yeah, and I imagine especially now, like, we talked about the wildfires at the beginning, but just you know, with just like the climate literally making things that much more topsy-turvy, I imagine there's just a lot of, like it sounds like you all have to lean on each other in a, variety of ways. And then also imagine you just you probably see each other like at all the markets and everything, and that
Yeah,
whole
definitely. That's always fun. At the end of the market, like, I don't know if the general public is aware, but if you stay at a farmer's market and you're a farmer late, sometimes you can trade with people, try all kinds of things. So, if you have a little bit extra at the end of your day, you can trade. So,
yeah. So let's talk a little bit more about how you got into mushroom farming specifically, going from again just a passion for sustainability in general to, what was it about mushroom farming, or what sparked that?
so during my exchange program to SOU from New Jersey, we had a guest speaker named Paul Stamets who came to the university to talk about how fungi could save the planet. And that was definitely the moment of spark for me. But I have these moments of spark pretty regularly, which is just a joy of like working with fungi. It happens all the time. So like about 2.5 weeks ago, I learned that you can grow 900 million pounds of mushrooms per square acre.
Wow.
I know. That can really help us solve our food. Like my farm is 3 acres, and and we could probably feed a good chunk of the planet with that much mushrooms. Of course, that that take it with a grain of salt. That's probably mushroom specific. That might be specifically button mushroom. That might not be all mushrooms can grow that quantity on that acreage. But it's a beautiful fact that it doesn't take a lot of space to grow mushrooms. So that makes it more accessible. That makes it more scalable. That on the resource consumption side of things, it's less intensive. It takes maybe like 2 gallons of water to grow a pound of mushrooms, whereas I think it takes like over 1,000 gallons to make a pound of beef. Whereas a mushroom production you can grow 1 pound of mushrooms with 2 gallons of water. So, we talk about water scarcity or water pollution, and this is a real practical solution that doesn't really take that much to get going.
Yeah, and I'm just kind of like I'm in this process where getting closer to like my mid-30s, and I know certain like dietary stuff is changing. Like I can't, my body doesn't process dairy the same as it used to. My body doesn't, I'm realizing I really got to like cut down on meat. And one of the things that, I've been looking for as far as like, things that like work as substitutes are mushrooms. Like, so when you talk about, you can, and now the numbers are, of course, have
It's a lot.
escaped me, but just like, oh, wait, I could, the same amount of beef, it would take the same amount of water it would take to produce this much beef. I can produce, you said 900, how many pounds of mushrooms?
900 million pounds, almost a billion.
Good God.
Yeah. And then, we have this like, and I want to say like solving our food security challenges, which is a big topic of sustainability. I don't, uh, I don't think it's about producing this astronomical amount of food, because we literally already do. I think it's just about distributing it better, and the fact that mushrooms can grow on low intensities of water and land. I think that really opens a lot of doors for that distribution challenge.
Mm-hmm. And so at a certain point, you kind of like mushroom farming got on your radar, and then at a certain point it took you to the Midwest to spend some time on a mushroom farm. Can you talk about that a little bit more?
Yeah, so that was the mushroom farm was about 2 years after that initial spark. So I believe it was 2016 that I went to go live at a multi-state mushroom farm. It was based in Wisconsin and Minnesota. And it was called Cherry Treehouse Mushroom Farm. Thank you so much, Jeremy, if you hear this. But yeah, they were growing like shiitakes and oysters, and it was all log-based, all certified organic, and just a really incredible experience. It taught me about selling, producing, the farm work. So
Yeah. And, to that end, because you do, as a mushroom farmer, you wear a number of hats. And let's talk a little bit about like when it went from, kind of like learning under these other farms to having your own, your own establishment with Zoom Out Mycology. When did Zoom Out start?
I started Zoom Out Mycology January 1st of 2017, so 1 year after the mushroom farm experience. And I actually started while in New Jersey, but 6 months after, moved everything to Oregon, where we've been since then. And in 2019, I actually started renting my own farm here in Central Point. And yeah, I think there's programs that can really walk you through the whole process, but I didn't know about those, and I'm kind of glad for my path. Like I think everything is working out in divine timing. But yeah.
And could you just talk a little bit about as far as like the programming that Zoom Out does?
Zoom Out Mycology and the OSU Small Farms program is hosting 4 upcoming workshops. They're just a couple of weeks away now. The first one is on September 18th from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. It's all about sustainable agriculture, specifically with fungi and sustainable development concepts will be explored. The second one is about growing warm weather mushrooms like almond mushroom or pink oyster, especially reishi mushroom, which we're doing this huge research. And by huge, I don't mean like complex, it's actually very practical and applied research, but it's significant because it's something I want to, it's something I want to do for life, and something that I feel like called to do is research. So that's what makes it big. The third workshop is on medicinal mushroom use. So how to use them, how to incorporate them into your life. And then the fourth one is about cool weather mushroom growing.
Mm.
So those are the most upcoming things. Those are hosted events. We also usually do tea demos around the country. Of course, looks a little different for the last couple of years, but we still do it. So
Yeah. So, when you talk about just like the different things you do, in addition to obviously, farming, growing mushrooms, making tea, putting on, workshops, doing digital content. Am I missing something here?
research.
Research, yes, research. So, how do you, I mean, just because you're also a student, you know, how how do you balance just all of that? I know you have other people working on the farm with you, but just seems like a lot.
Yes. Well, I prioritize, I do time management. I have all these different types of calendars. So I have like above me, I have my like weekly outlines, just the recurring stuff that happens each week. To the left of me, I have like just a running like priority list, and I'm always reorganizing it, putting things from A to F priorities. To the right of me, I have like random thoughts, including one like my school calendar. So that's pretty, I guess I have a 1-year calendar too. So that's how I keep it um, organized and on track. But I think, building in time for rest is a good one that I've been doing more. Like now this August and September, we're kind of taking Mondays as a rest day. So and like you said at the very beginning, I have an excellent team of people who share the same mission in life, vision, and really help me out a ton.
Yeah, and how big is the team there?
So one of our team members is based in Pennsylvania. Her name is Mallory. The other 3 are here right in Oregon, and they help in person, but Mallory helps with marketing.
Got it. So, can you talk a little bit more? Yeah, let's talk a little bit more about mushroom tea specifically. I had the chance to and get some while I was down there, and it's been hot most of the days, but it's getting cooler again, so I was actually able to try it out, and it's a great one, by the way.
Oh,
But yeah, can you just talk about the process one of like making making tea, and kind of like what are some of like the different benefits people can get from like medicinal mushroom tea, and then also just like going around and yeah, like taking it from different markets, going doing workshops on tea. Like how do people I guess do people what's the word I'm looking for? I feel like it probably opens up people's eyes a lot, when you're doing these. But yeah, can you just talk about that a little bit more?
Definitely. I think it's a huge honor to be able to introduce many people to medicinal mushrooms. In many cultures, they've been revered for maybe thousands of years for their medicinal properties. So I definitely recognize that honor to share that. But I'll start at the very beginning. So we make 4 different blends of herbal mushroom tea. They're made with fruits, herbs, flowers, and mostly mushrooms. The mushrooms are reishi, lion's mane, and maitake. Reishi mushroom is an adaptogen. It's an adaptogenic mushroom. That means it helps your body adapt to and manage stress. And so that's one little quick bit about reishi. Maitake is a great immunomodulator, really can help your immune system adapt and defend or relax. And lion's mane is a nootropic mushroom that can regenerate brain and nerve cells in the body. So those are the primary roles of each tea. I also paired them with herbs that have similar properties or supportive properties, like the antioxidants and hibiscus and the reishi red. So those herbs have similar properties. The hibiscus is also great for your cardiovascular system, as is the reishi mushroom. So they're delicious. They can help you with some core, holistic health pathways. And it's so holistic that sometimes we joke and say, like, tell me what your problem is and I'll tell you, like, how it helps. But it's really not meant to be like a prescriptive product. It's meant to be a system for how do I say this, like a lifestyle, like a holistic lifestyle.
Mhm. And I'm just curious, when I imagine when you're telling people, hey, this is medicinal mushroom tea. I wonder, do some people think you're talking about like psychedelic mushrooms?
All of the time.
Mhm.
All the time. We went to the Lane County Fair not too long ago. I think that was like mid-July. And that was a huge question there, and it's okay. It's a reality here for us Oregonians, and that's not what I'm selling.
Yeah. Yeah. Can you just talk about, seeing you obviously, we talk about like farmers markets and whatnot, but then, seeing you've also been in like grocery stores, so can you just talk about as far as the process of, going out and, like what types of different things besides like, again, markets, grocery stores, like, what kind of different places do you find yourself vending at? And like how, I guess like how, for those of us who are, not in the business, like how often, like, is it like an every weekend thing? Is it what's kind of like the frequency?
Well, when I'm finished with school, I hope we can do events 2 times a week. But currently it's like it's seasonal, so each season looks a little different. And summer, we did about 12 events this summer. I have one more event in about 10 days. It's on the East Coast in Pennsylvania. So that will wrap up our 12th event of the summer. And other seasons, like fall is the busiest time, but there looks to only be like 3 events this fall. So um, the COVID crisis definitely changed that atmosphere.
Mhm. And when you got like you're going to Pennsylvania, so in terms of, I assume that's like you're taking a plane,
Yes.
correct? Yeah.
Yes.
Like so you just like load up like a duffel bag of mushrooms and
How does that work? I love
Yeah.
that question. That's a really fun question. So I actually, it's simpler than that. I was thinking that though, like, how am I gonna do this? Because I've never really like, we've driven to Las Vegas and that's a drive, so we can just load up the whole car. But to get to the East Coast, I'm shipping the tea to my family in boxes. And my suitcase has like mostly soft things, food safety items, some electrical items, some tablecloths, decorative table items. And then I shipped a lot of glass. So I shipped like a lot of teapots, not a lot, like 4 teapots, 4 of each glass jars.
Okay, so it's not actually like, walking onto, walking onto the flight with just the carry on of just like, oh, this is a big bag of mushrooms. Everyone's like, what is, who is this? It's
No,
not like that.
usually if I'm visiting my family, it 100% is like that, because anytime I visit my family, I already know I'm gonna meet a bunch of people who are gonna want some tea. So I just bring like 20 or 30 tins, but
And you don't get any any just random people being like, what is that? What are you, what are
well, I
you?
keep it all like in the suitcase.
Okay, so it's not like super like pungent or anything like that.
It is in the kitchen, but not necessarily in the airport. Maybe to the dogs.
Oh, that's good. I imagine no one likes flying anyway, so you as much fun as I imagine it would be if you're like, hey, the mushroom lady is at the airport again. I suppose there are
Yeah.
better ways to spend the time. Do you have any, as far as like favorite places, whether it's like markets or other types of events you've been at?
Yeah. Well, locally, the Spring Garden Fair has always been like the hit of the year. Super fun. I really,
Where's just for those who don't know, where's the Spring Garden Fair?
at the Expo Center in Jackson County in Central Point. So it's where they have like other kinds of fairs, or like the Jackson County Fair. Um, and it's the master gardeners go, they bring like all their plants. I'm usually the only fungus person. Well, there might be like a mycorrhizal fungi person there, but I'm usually like the only decomposer fungi person. And um, that's really fun. There's also Fungus Fest in New Jersey, which is hosted by the New Jersey Mycological Society. That's my home mycological society. I'm still a member of it. I encourage everyone to join their local mycological society. It's a great time. At Fungus Fest, you can find like mushroom dyed yarn. You can find all kinds of mushrooms growing. There's tables. It's at an arboretum, which is like a tree museum. So you can go out on forays, which is where you look for everything, not just edible mushrooms. So
You talk about mushroom dyed yarn. Like, is there? I'm curious. Like, as far as like uses for mushrooms that you know people wouldn't think of unless they were in the in this environment. Like, is there something I don't know? Is something that would shock me, for example, that you can think of?
like what's a mushroom product that might be shocking?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, this is so I had a stakeholder celebration on Sunday for people who wrote letters of support for a research project, and I left one thing out in my on this little table, and everyone's like, "What is this?" They're like, "Is it mushroom leather?" I'm like, "It's mushroom paper." And we're experimenting at Zoom Out Mycology with some like mushroom money that we make, and it's paper. So you just take the turkey tail, put it in a blender and grind it up with water, and then it becomes paper. I can go get some if you want to see it. it's not far away.
Oh, yeah, sure.
So this is one that we actually try to put our stamp on. And then like we're gonna put a code on it. It's a little bumpy, so it's hard to see the text, but it's like bendable.
Hmm.
It's amazing. You can tear it. It's not like super firm. It's pretty thin. And I have like a huge stack of it.
Nice, nice, nice. Yeah, that kind of brings me, back to talking about zoom out, and we've kind of talked about, we talked about the tea, we talked about kind of like, sort of the health and well-being aspect, but another thing that you're very big about is promoting food security. So can you just talk about kind of like how zoom out, does that both kind of like in practice and in, you talked about a little bit earlier, but again about in like programming.
Absolutely. So I think education, we talk a lot about like levers for change in the sustainability field. That what that means is like, how can you make the most impact, or what is making the most negative impact, and how can you change that? So I'm kind of taking this from a perspective of like what can make the most positive impact. And for us, I think it's really education. Um, I I've always loved sharing information with people. And so we're doing lots of workshops. Usually every year we do at least 1 or 2 workshops on how to grow mushrooms. But in practice, we also supply a product known as Sawdust Spawn that allows people to grow their own mushrooms. We teach them how to use it. I aim to have customers that have never even heard of it. So we teach people how to farm mushrooms, and it looks pretty different than like buying a block or two for yourself and your household. So that is, usually we do 1 or 2 workshops per year at least on how to how to farm mushrooms to increase food security.
Mm.
So I think, food security is about a lot of things. One of them is crop selection, and maybe if more people were growing mushrooms, we might have, less water consumption, or less land conversion, or other things, less nitrate pollution associated with farming other crops.
Right. And again, you're entering senior year uh, at SOU. So have you thought about your plans after graduation, both individually as well as for zoom out?
Uh, work 4 times harder. Keep going. I don't know. I have thought about it, and I feel like I'm getting there. Like I'm getting started. I really want to do research as a life path. I think it's a really incredible way to solve problems, to identify problems, solve them, and then share that information. So like I think research is like an individual thing for me, and then as far as Zoom Out Mycology, we can really the next step after research is dissemination. So I think we can really share information with people about, locally relevant questions, farmer relevant questions. Um, so
And so no plans of leaving Oregon or
no plans of leaving Oregon. Well, I love Japan. I would like to I don't know if I put this in the notes, but I definitely want to have a forested property in Japan to I want to go there and learn. That's where mushroom farming originates, and in way back.
Mhm.
So I think it would be a really wonderful experience to learn from people who have so much historical knowledge and experience with mushrooms culturally.
Yeah, I always say that I'm not I feel like I talk sometimes like I'm, paid by the state to try and like keep people here. But, you know, I just think, what you're doing is so awesome. And, again, like one of the reasons like that kind of like got the ball rolling on this was just a friend of mine saying, hey Bruce, you gotta interview this mushroom farmer down in, Southern Oregon. It's just like, I don't know, when people are just doing work that kind of like, has its own legs, I think it's awesome. And, I think, again, what you're doing is awesome. So I look forward to seeing it grow. Yeah, Bashira, thank you so much again for taking the time. And, best of luck as, Zoom Out Mycology continues to grow.
Thank you so much, Bruce.
Absolutely. Thank you for watching. Please like and share and subscribe so you can stay up to date on all of the latest videos. Thank you.